Cosplay for All podcast. Introducing ourselves again, I am Megan.
I'm Ronan.
I'm Eric.
Whitney or Zabracus.
And Ian.
Awesome. So today we are working on finishing touches. So what completes your costume? What things you can add as far as wigs and makeup and props and details and things that make your costume one complete, awesome masterpiece, work of art. You get what I'm saying? So what to you makes a complete costume, just as a general overall thing?
I'd say for me, it's the details.
Yeah.
A lot of people just throw on a costume, put it on, but then they forget simple things like weathering, like just the small details. They do like a weapon, and it looks like a toy still. You know, they don't try to make it look real. So it's just those little details, added finishes, I think.
Yeah.
I have to agree. I mean, with my Piccolo costume, I can't tell you how many times people would actually be happy that I got the nails on, that I got the teeth in, that I got the contacts in, because I mean, most people ignore stuff like that. And when it comes to making a costume, I'll take the picture. There's no variant at all, and I will go for that exact cosplay. And that's what completes it for me, is making it as perfect as humanly possible.
It's the little things, you know. It's
is.
it's the crud and the grime in the corners where you would imagine it accumulating over time, you know, or the surface texture of it, which I did with Zod, you know, just trying to get that ancient metal look, you know, by letting it be pitted and stuff. So
yeah.
And you'd be surprised of like what your costume is missing. Once you add something, you're like, how did I not have this before? You know what I mean?
It's so true.
The funniest part about that is no one will ever notice it but you.
No.
Yeah.
Well, it's creators.
It's the parts you spend the most time on, like no one will see it but you.
I feel like cosplayers, I feel like there's no satisfying us because like literally your costume's never done. It just literally is never ever done.
A lot of that is retouching though.
Yeah. Constant like upgrading of stuff. Like for instance, if you have like a character who's supposed to be covered in blood or covered in dirt, things like that. If you're missing that, there's a whole another element that's just gone.
Yeah.
Say, what's the hardest thing about getting that detail? What's the hardest detail you guys have to accomplish?
Weathering. I can't weather for anything. Most of my I fall victim to that one. I'm the one that doesn't do the weathering because I don't know how.
I think one of the things that a lot of people do when they weather is they actually weather it with dirt and grime, and they say you put it in a hole, and that's not what it's about. Because as soon as because eventually you're going to want to wash it or Febreze it at least. So the idea is to make it look like it's weathered, but not to actually be weathered. So I mean, just like for me, when I see clean armor, no matter what era or from what game or whatever, it's like, well, that doesn't look right. You know, it should be
like
weathered.
A toy.
Yeah,
it looks like a plastic toy instead of armor.
Yeah.
For me, it's fabric. Like, you know, like your upcoming project, getting that nitty gritty, getting the exact fabric. That's difficult. Man. Fabric's so the worst for me. I hate fabric.
For me, it's like the gear. Like a lot of the characters I have a lot of belts or a lot of like just like straps and like the bells and whistles and things like that. And it's something that I feel like it just completes the whole entire look. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, props.
I haven't had a lot of props yet, so I'm not there.
It's true.
Yet.
I have a lot of props. So.
Mine are mostly guns.
Props is my favorite thing to work on for sure. That's the first thing I think I successfully weathered. I say it in quotes because to me it's weathered. To you, somebody like you probably would look like
you'd be surprised. Like I actually brought these here. Like for this, for example, this is just a toy gun that I painted black. Might not be able to see it very well, but it's not weathered at all. This is the same technique I was using, but it actually weathered it. All I did is dry brush it with silver.
Oh yeah, you can tell the difference.
And
it looks.
So you can see the difference there. I mean, that's all it takes is just a dry brush of silver, and it looks weathered metal.
Yeah, it looks a lot more realistic that way as well.
Yeah, you get that. You get the paint rubbed off to see the metal behind.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Battle scars and battle marks on armor, the chinks in the armor, the chinks in the sword. You know, where you get that little cut and you see it. It's really super shiny there, but the sword's all old and aged because that's new. That's a new cut. So you have to logically think through the order of operations. What happened? It's been sliced through. Therefore, it should be the shiniest part.
Well, and the
Makes
biggest
sense,
problem with stuff like that too is human beings naturally, we have order on our mind, we have symmetry. And when doing something like that, you can't use that.
It's hard to be messy
because
Yeah.
You have to-
I mean,
yeah.
you got to think bullets firing down a range. The ones that are glancing off your armor, they're not going to one here and then one in the exact same spot on the opposite side. It's
Here,
never going to
here,
line up
Oh,
with
yeah.
that.
No.
And then when doing
glance.
the process, even trying to not create a pattern, you create a pattern.
Oh yeah.
It just happens.
No, that's been happening right now with my Deathstroke that I'm making. Deathstroke from Arkham Origins Batman. Like I'm just using a little heat gun to burn the foam, and I keep trying to do it randomly, but it keeps being not random,
No.
and it's
You're just like
so
trying to even
hard.
it out on one side, and you're
It's
like,
like,
there's
I have
too much
too
on
many
this
marks on
side.
this
Put
side.
it
I
on
need to
that
add more
side.
and then you
here.
just do so much where you're like, I don't want to play anymore.
I'm done with this. We are through. So as far as like detail work goes, we talk about weathering. What other techniques do you use to add detail?
Well, even with weathering with cloth, I mean, think of how you bend. So your knees are going to be scuffed up. Get some sandpaper. Your elbows. Get some.
The bottoms of capes
Yep.
are
Yep.
going to be torn up.
Yeah, they're not going to look clean. You get ink. Actually, use like the ballpoint ink pens that you can get from the store. The refills. Use that for the browns and the blacks, and it sticks there. Go wipe your tires down with your stuff because that stuff doesn't come off.
No, it doesn't.
And so you just wipe your tires down and then put it in the wash. See what stays. I mean,
That's smart.
weathering is that simple on a lot of that stuff.
A lot of it's as simple as even thinning down a paint. I mean, it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
ultra thinning down to where it's translucent. Like acrylic paints and some paint thinner, or even the oil-based paints. Oil-based paints will never come out. So I mean, there's a lot of it comes down to that too. And that way, when you wash it, it looks like dirt and doesn't wash out.
As far as getting past the weathering portion, what other things complete a costume? I mean, the paint job before the weathering is a really, really big thing. Do you have the right color? If you do, does it match whatever else you're painting that color, but it's a different material? Same paint, but it can look completely different.
Right.
Color matching.
It's all about getting into the fine detail with the fabric. Did you buy all the fabric at the same time? Is it all off the same roll? If it's not, is it the same? More than likely it's not.
Yeah,
It's
fabric can vary from bolt to
crazy.
bolt, even though it's
Oh,
the
yeah.
same thing. You get all the same time. Buy extra fabric. That way, if you
Oh yeah.
if you don't get
Always.
enough, you've got extra. And if you end up with too much, hey, that's fine. Put it
You
in
can use
scrap.
it for something
Always
else.
buy at once. Always buy it all at once.
Yeah.
Actually, for me,
It's always better to have more than less, so you
Yeah.
don't have to do that.
Always with
Even-
everything.
even before painting, is priming.
Oh.
Priming, especially Warbler and Wonderflex kind of stuff. I think we talked about this in the previous podcast. I love this stuff. This is Rust-Oleum's 2-in-1 filler and sandable primer. Spray this on a couple light coats. Don't do it so heavy you get runs. And if you do, you'll end up with a buttery smooth surface that is flexible and doesn't peel off, and then you can sand it. If you dry sand it, you get pits. If you wet sand it, you end up with a glossy finish. I mean, you end up with something just perfectly shiny. I mean, it's gorgeous. The other thing you can do is wood glue, which is real fast, but the problem is it does that. It cracks and creaks and it actually flakes off. In fact, you can see right now it's fracturing
yeah.
on there. Wood glue is fine if you want to do something quick. And actually there it's flaking off. Wood glue is good for non-bendy things. But if it's going to be a bracer where it goes on or a headband, don't do it.
I've realized I've spray painted boots before, and even the moving of the boots, they ended up looking weathered because they the crack in the material, and it just wasn't very smooth and it wasn't solid.
Though.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes
Yeah.
it looks really good,
Yeah.
but if you don't want it to do that, then what are your options?
Yeah.
I knew that, which is why when I did Zod, I chose PVC boots because they're plastic, and paint loves PVC, and other things will stick to PVC versus leather. So leather is much harder to get into another color.
mine were pleather boots.
Yeah, pleather.
Pleather.
And so if you end up with a synthetic material, you can still make it look like leather, but you can also make it look like by metal, by adding your paint and whatnot, and it will stick and stay forever. I mean, I've walked miles in those boots. They don't look any different than the day I painted them. Everything's still there.
Well, that's a good point, actually. I mean, when you're looking at paints, make sure you get the right paint for the right surface you're going to paint to.
Yeah, foam is a tough one. Foam's always rough.
Yeah. Well, foam, what you can do is, we got this, it's called Plasti Dip. You can just buy this off the rack. There's some other ways you can get it where you mix it and thin it out, but this is just the best way. And you just coat this with foam or over EVA foam. And this helmet right here is actually completely covered in foam. And then I just use latex house paint over the top of it.
Yeah, I've got a lot of friends that use Plasti Dip. They don't use the stuff in the can. They use the stuff, the stuff in the spray can. They use the stuff in the regular, like a quart thing, like a dip, Only you put it in an airless paint sprayer and you thin it out with naphtha.
You do
then you spray it on 2 to 1.
2 to 1.
And you can actually put it on like paint. It doesn't run and looks really gorgeous.
Yeah.
What do you? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, because the problem with EVA foam is it soaks up the paint,
and it's rough. It's got a texture.
And so this seals the pores. Some people will say, "Oh, use wood glue, use different glues." Mod Podge. Mod Podge and wood glue are 2 different things. Yeah. And like he mentioned, that wood glue dries hard, and should only be used on hard surfaces. Mod Podge or Elmer's glue, those things, you can use that. But honestly, this is you can't go wrong with that.
I wish I'd used some of that on my foam on top, but I ended up just kind of Mod Podging and then hitting it with this primer. It all stayed together, luckily. So.
Yeah. And Plasti Dip is just as cheap as like wood glue and Mod Podge.
Yeah.
So. And
it wears too, and I guess there's some that you can actually peel it off too.
Well, it depends on the surface.
Yeah.
A lot of cars, people that do cars use that. Because then they can peel it off afterwards.
Yeah, I've seen like rims done with that. Like they'll paint the rims red and then they'll peel it off.
Huh.
This can act as a primer because primer is something that goes between your surface and your paint.
Yeah, between the rough surface and your finished texture, you got to have something for it all to stick to.
Yeah. And so just make sure that when you're looking at paints or primers, to get the one for the surface, whether it's plastic, leather. Well, don't spray paint leather for one. Use leather paints or dyes, but use the proper tools for the proper job.
Yeah, always.
And you can actually
what you're working with.
I have seen some people seal foam, not like the pink and the blue insulation foam that you get from the hardware store, with Mod Podge and then put spray paint on, because otherwise spray paint will eat foam.
Yeah,
depending on the kind of spray
paint, rigid foam.
Well, and also another thing I've learned with foam to make life a little bit easier is take your heat gun and go over the layer of it with your heat gun in the beginning.
I do that with EVA foam,
and it melts those pores together, and it makes it a nicer, a more nice surface for to start it all out with. So it's really all in how you prep everything. Getting down to prosthetics, which is one thing I want to dive really deep into, is getting into prosthetics. It's as simple as, to make your life easier in the end, painting it, pigment it. So take and put a little bit of acrylic in with your latex, or get the proper materials. I can't think of the name off the top of my head for foam latex, and pigment it before you all begin. And then it's at least roughly the right color. Makes life easy.
So what do you guys do as far as like little details, even like embroidery, but like, do you use paint, like little details on your props?
I give it to, Ashley in our group to do, because I'm not good at that stuff.
I know it's like a lot of puffy paint you can use to make textures and like little designs with, because the nozzle is so tiny that you can do those little.
I usually end up with little blobbies though. It looks like second grade work with Elmer. A
little make a macaroni message.
Yeah,
teacher, I stayed in the lines.
I'm not good with puffy paint. I tried.
Yeah. You don't stand in the line, just call it weathering, right?
I do a lot of stenciling. I did use some some slick paint for texturing on this kind of almost tribal design on the back of my Kevin Flynn jacket. And so that was a shiny paint, but I just stenciled it on. And even with the stencil, it still bled out through the fabric, because it was a rough fabric. It was. It took a couple layers to kind of just hit it so that I could end up with a nice hard line. So if at first you don't succeed, keep going. It'll get better.
It'll get better. So don't give up.
I'll never give up. So what I do whenever I have details on like a fabric is I can't remember what it's called, but it's this material that you attach material to, and so that you can iron on the material to other material. That was a lot of use of the word material.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Bias tape for some reason.
Bias tape. That's exactly what it is.
Pull that out.
The stuff that you iron it to?
So you take it and you iron it to the fabric, and then you peel off the other side and you iron the other fabric to it. That's
Yeah.
stick.
Or even applique stuff.
I think that's.
I think it's applique.
Yeah.
Stick.
Someone's gonna correct this.
It's
We'll
applique.
edit
It's
this
applique.
at some
Someone
point.
will know.
Either way, like
Someone will know.
because I'm not good at embroidery and I don't have the time for embroidery, and I also don't have a screen printer or anything fancy like that. So this is just an easy way to get some sort of detailed design thing onto the fabric.
So how do you fake embroidery?
I haven't tried that yet.
I bet you could probably get some of that fancy trimming stuff, the edge, the really kind of ornate trims like they use on packages.
yeah.
The fabric, you could probably applique that on.
Well, if you
Interior
got
embroidery.
if you got somebody that's pretty decent at sewing, you can take and stencil it onto a piece of fabric and cut it out completely, and then have somebody sew it to it.
Yeah.
That's in the general what embroidery is. It's just stitching with embroidery, but still it'll get the look across. But I'm not going to take the time to do that. That's ridiculous.
That's what the super pros,
just buy an embroidery machine.
Man, they embroider everything.
Oh,
They've got the sergers. Thousands of dollars in sewing equipment.
Well, that's one of the number one reasons I like looking at Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones. There's so many costumes I want to do from Game of Thrones, but everything's embroidered so much that I'm like,
and
I'm
everything
not good
is
enough yet. I'm gonna
so
hold
detailed.
I want to do
so detailed.
I want to do Daenerys Targaryen's that metal belt that she wears
Oh,
with all the holes.
Yeah.
I like that. It's organic and shit. But I'm not a skinny little girl. I have to put it on like my niece or something.
I saw someone make it out of Transpa Art Warbler.
Really?
Yeah.
Already?
Yeah. It looked
That's
really
crazy.
cool,
Well,
actually.
this actually brings up a question: is a detailed work? What about faux products versus the real products? For example, leather versus faux leather or pleather, using real appliques versus mimicking them out of puffy paint or something like that.
The best I got is what can you get away with?
Yeah, what gets the
Yeah.
job done?
Exactly.
And a lot of the times your costumes will look real in photographs.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times
From a distance.
Yeah, and a lot of times they'll look good at a convention too, just depending on the way that you can get away with it or pull it off.
Yeah.
You can always go cheaper if you can go cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you sacrifice look of the costume, there's a lot of things you can use faux leather or even pleather for to make it look like real leather. But once you get the finished design, you're like, this looks like pleather, and it totally will. So you just got to know what you can substitute for what.
Yeah.
There's the biggest thing I'm trying to do right now is substitute all Warbler that I want to use for Sintra, because it's cheaper. It's sometimes just as malleable depending on how much
definitely
you heat it
sturdier.
up. Really,
Yeah.
it's
very
sturdier.
effective.
It's just an all around better material
You can get it
because
locally, too.
it is cheaper.
Nice.
What was that?
You can get it locally too.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
So aside from like the details in the actual costume, to create your finished product as far as your character goes, let's move it on to wigs and
Yes.
styling wigs, because not everybody has the hair that character has.
Very rare.
Like I'll do costumes, I have to wear a wig, or I have to wear extensions, or I have to wear a bald cap, and sometimes it just looks better. So go ahead, and I know you've got an example.
I'll sit back for this one.
It's good to
So-
be a
One
guy.
wig.
I don't have to worry about
Yeah.
this.
I know that a lot of people are always like super worried about wearing wigs because they're annoying and itchy and they're heavy and all these other stupid excuses.
So itchy.
But like it will finish your costume in ways that you cannot imagine. Like if you have blonde hair and your character has black hair, you should probably get a wig.
Or dye your hair.
And you don't even
Or dye your hair.
For cosplay.
For
cosplay.
But also the best thing is natural hair will over time fade out of whatever you have it styled into, whereas the wigs, if you do them properly, they should stay perfectly however you have styled them forever. Well, not forever.
And
but
why is that?
hairspray glue.
So is it because they're synthetic materials?
Oh, yeah, that's actually the reason. But hairspray
But glue works too.
All those spells make it stay.
Yes. Wigs. Where to even start with these?
What types are there? Because honestly, I
There's all
own
kinds.
one wig, and I had to do a lot of reresearch to find that one wig, and it basically ended up just asking someone which one I should get, and they got me the one.
Yeah. So there's heat resistant, non-heat resistant, lace wigs, real human hair wigs, which are ridiculously expensive. So unless you want to make a real investment, just go synthetic.
There's also really crappy wigs that you should
Oh, yeah.
definitely
Like costume
read.
shop wigs.
If you,
those are
if you go
bad.
to like a Halloween store, you might find good ones, you might find terrible ones. But if you buy them online, always read the reviews, please. Because sometimes they don't even ship in the right color, or like they'll be like, this wig is red, and you get like this weird off pink, and it just research.
So wherever you buy your wigs from, try to see if there's like customer reviews with pictures, because the way that they take pictures of the wigs and post it on their websites, they edit the pictures. They can make the wig look however they want.
Yeah, saturate the color, make it brighter, make it darker.
Exactly. So if you can like see actual pictures of users, then you can get a vibe for the actual color and style of how the wig actually will be. So that's always helpful. And I know Arta Wigs, one of the places you can buy wigs online, is really good about that. They have a huge user gallery and various different lighting pictures of all of the different wigs. But there's also other places you can buy wigs. I know a lot of people have had a lot of good luck with eBay. I don't like risking quality of wigs because it's like Russian roulette, but you really have no idea what you're going to get.
And if you pick the right wig, your costume will end up looking a lot better.
And this looks like real hair. This is nice.
Right?
Yeah.
And so this one is actually a lace front wig. It has lace tool in the front. The reason you would use a wig like this is if you have a hairline that needs to show, or a scalp.
If your hair is like back.
Yeah, like a scalp line of some nature. That's why you would want that.
How do you cover that up?
So you actually, say there's a lot of different things you could do with this. You could actually extend the hairline if you wanted to, like make a widow's peak. You could add more hair along the sides if you're super talented and whatnot. But if you're just going to leave the actual natural hairline that they have already, then you just cut it off. You just cut off the excess lace. And what's so special about these in particular is that they hand weft in these front pieces. And so it looks natural when you're wearing it versus like having the front of the weft be like right on your
perfectly
forehead.
Straight.
Yeah. So that's why lace front wigs are super helpful and awesome. But you can also create your own front if you need to. Like on that Vegeta wig from DBZ, I had to create the widow's peak myself, and it turned out okay because I'm not that great at doing that yet.
Can you use just regular hair products on it, on the wigs?
Yes, and I always recommend washing your wigs.
That was my next question.
Yes. Wig care.
Yeah,
yes,
wig care.
So when you first get them, depending on the type of wig, you can wash them right away. If they just in a sink with soapy water.
I've read that you can take the plasticky shiny look off of some wigs by soaking them in fabric softener overnight.
Because that also detangles it too. It's
right.
Fabric
so if you have a super bright shiny wig that you don't want it to be so shiny, or if it's extra plasticky, first put it in some hot warm soapy water, just like shampoo. You can sometimes even use hand soap depending on the wig quality and how lazy you are. And then you rinse it out, and then you very carefully, with only a little bit of fabric softener, just put fabric softener on it, and that'll tone down both the shininess and the plasticky-ness of it, and it makes it a lot easier to detangle it. And then
where do you store your wigs? Or like, how do you store your wigs?
Where and how?
So I've actually
Cosplay bag.
Yeah, so currently I've been storing my wigs. I have an over-the-door shoe rack, like one of the ones that has like hooks, and I've just been hanging them on that.
Oh, that's super clever.
So as far as like storing them in my house, that's how I do it. When I travel them to conventions, I usually keep them on a wig head in a bin where nothing can touch them.
See, I'm terrible. I put them in like the little hair net that it comes with, and I just put it in a drawer.
Yeah, well,
try to keep them separate.
Like a wig like this, you could totally do that with, because it's fine if it gets tousled about, but a wig like that,
yeah, definitely that one.
Don't want that in a bag.
You don't have 20
break all the
24 hours of work.
And for
put
people
into
just
it.
listening, I'm pointing at a Saiyan wig with super pointy hair
from Dragon Ball.
And
from
it's
Dragon Ball.
The most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
But it's awesome.
I like your remade one.
I grew my hair out.
This is the remade one.
That's the remade one. It needs some work.
I know. It got attacked. It wasn't properly stored away at first.
So what about like beards and stuff? Has anyone ever done like fake beards?
No.
I grow
haven't
the
tried
real
that yet.
thing.
I'll try it.
He's
If
like,
I
I
have
don't
enough
need a
time, I
fake
will.
beard.
Well,
I've
I'll
got
actually
one.
plan conventions around facial hair.
Yeah.
So seriously,
You're like, should
That's what I do.
shave
For like
this
Krieger, I'm
weekend?
going to grow a full beard. By the time I get to Zod, I'll have most shaved
You
off down
shove
to
it
just
up.
the bottom. You know?
well, it's like I've done a gender bent Misty. And I wouldn't say bent, I would say a cross dress because I literally wear what she is. The only difference is I take my facial hair and I dye it her hair color.
That is
Orange
amazing.
is-
So
It's
at the
it's
next
fabulous.
convention we're going to Denver, and that's going to be my first costume is that. And then right after that, I'm going to shave so I can do my Riddler costume.
Awesome.
So
Yes,
I
you're just
plan it
gonna plan.
around so I can use real facial hair.
Now, what I've wanted
Yeah.
to do, like at the time, I couldn't get a full beard in time for Kevin Flynn. I was young Kevin Flynn. I was goatee Kevin Flynn. But I need to do like do you think they make stuff where I can kind of blend it in?
Oh yeah, I mean I've seen
So
them online.
I
Yeah, I've
almost
seen
need
people
to
do
just do
it.
like big chops right here and then blend it into the goatee and call it.
Yeah, because one thing I've been doing research on is doing a big dwarf beard.
Yeah.
And I'm talking like a
Ooh,
big
mhm.
one, but I don't
Like-
want to use yarn because it looks cheap,
Mm.
and so that's why I've been doing some research that way.
A Thor and Oaken
Well,
shield
yeah.
beard.
Yep.
Yeah,
Well,
dude,
Would
for-
you use like wefts of extensions to build
Yeah,
something like
I
that?
Well, they
think
have
so.
beard ones
Oh,
Yeah.
for
cool.
that, for like
Beard extensions.
special effects and stuff.
Awesome.
Well, there's actually, I mean, in local makeup shops and stuff like that, if you want to look like you have a beard, but not like a big, not yours is too long for it to work, but they have little beards there that are meant for like Rick from The Walking Dead and stuff like
It's
that.
like
And
scruff.
when you look at it, you can tell it looks more like whisker. That stuff actually, now I never take the shape of it and just put it on and try to go for it. I'll take it and I'll cut it apart and make the pieces that I need.
Right.
And it actually works really well. Just a little bit of latex and it stays on pretty
Kind of
well.
customize it to what
Yeah.
works and what looks better. So you're talking about makeup shops. If there's anything else you have to add about wigs, then now is the
Wear a
time.
wig cap.
Wear-
only thing-
oh yeah, thank you. Wig caps,
That's it.
lifesavers.
The
Keeps all
only
your
thing I
hair
would say
together.
about a wig is if you have to create a wig, always, I mean, try to get the best style for it. But if all else
Mm-hmm.
fails, go longer, because you can always cut off more than accidentally get one that's too short.
Mhm.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, that's kind of what we do. You know, materials. You can always subtract, but you can't add.
Yep. Right.
You can with Warblood somewhat, but
So one thing I learned the hard way on the first wig I bought was if your head is not the exact same
Oh.
shape as one of those stands, don't style it on there. Because I did it
Yeah.
on there, made it look nice, put it on my head, it was up to here.
Yeah.
So time to
If
get a new
you-
wig 3 days before Comic-Con.
Yeah,
Yep.
and most wig heads are tiny, unless you're like a child styling a wig for a child. And so like if you have to use that wig head, just constantly be putting it on your head for comparison to see how things are turning out, because it makes a huge difference.
we
Another
need to do
thing you
head
can-
cast. We got big heads.
Well, and you can
Yes.
just cast the crown of your head too. So
Mhm.
take the idea, just get like the plaster strips and cast it really quick. Make sure you put saran wrap. You don't want that stuff in your head.
Unless you want to be bald at the next convention.
But do that, and then once
New form
that
of
dries,
waxing.
you can fill it with a little bit of expanding foam, and then stick it to the top of
That's
a
a good
cast like that. And then obviously once that dries, you can take it off, and you've got at least your shape of head. I mean, it's a quick
That works.
fix for something like that.
Yeah, that works.
So moving on to makeup, what are your favorite brands to use? I don't know if you guys. This might just be directed at
Got nothing.
Whitney.
Yeah.
I
Actually,
mean,
him too.
I
Oh yeah, because you did the piccolo. So
yeah,
just like
Dragon Ball
I'm
Z.
very particular with types of makeups, and it depends on what you're doing. Body,
Mhm.
I started out with an oil based. I like Ben Nye and Krylon. And for an oil based on your body is stupid. Don't do that.
do you need paint thinner to take that off?
Well, it's not that it comes off really easy. That's one of the benefits of oil based is it comes off really easy, but that's the problem.
comes off really easy.
It comes off really easy.
It's true.
So
Oh.
so not only are you going to have it on you, and when it rubs in a certain area, it still looks fine. I get, again, a good benefit of oil-based. But now it's on your clothes.
Rub off on your costume.
An
Oh,
oil
that
base,
is
an
the
oil base for
worst.
the most part. I did in my piccolo. I had white sheeting around me, so I'm getting green rubbed off on the white sheeting. It washes out really well. It completely comes out. But for walking through con, the first 10 minutes, everything's green or everything's whatever color it is.
And everybody
so
you pass is green.
Oh yeah.
So body, the best thing I've come to find is a good alcohol based does really well as long as you know how to apply it. The best way obviously would be an airbrush, but you got to get the right distance. You have to have somebody that knows what they're doing because it will just crack and fall off.
And you can always seal it too and make it last a little bit longer, and it won't rub off.
How do you seal it?
They have sealers.
They have sealers.
So speaking of body paint.
Speaking of body paint.
But they have the before and after sealers. They got the spray that goes on before and a powder that goes on after, and the stuff works pretty well.
And it'll stay too, depending on what you use. Like I just came from Wizard World and I got body painted by Naked Vegas, and they did use the powder and they did seal it. And depending on how well you like try to wash it off, it'll stay for 2 to 3 days, depending on how well they seal it.
Yeah,
but you got most of it off.
I did actually get it all off. The tattoos lasted a little bit longer.
Those are cool.
We tried to preserve at least the arms because I was like, they look pretty cool. But yeah, the best way to get it off is to like lather it with soap or shaving cream, just dry, and then it should rinse right off.
Yep.
Yeah. And then, I mean, back to the oil-based, I love it and I hate it because more than likely when I'm doing paint, I want to do body paint. And it sucks for that, but there's nothing better for your head. You will not get a better finish. It will look amazing on your head. And one of the good benefits about going in between brands is if you buy this specific color in Ben Nye and then you buy that same color in Krylon for your alcohol base on your body, they tend to match pretty well. So you can usually mix and match without too much of a difference.
They did have like a Pantone set for body paint.
Yeah.
So you get, I want blue 062C.
Yep.
You know.
Pound 0068B2.
That's HTML collection.
But yeah, my piccolo was off just a little bit from my head to my body, but I had my cape going in the middle. It came around my neck, so it didn't show that contrast at all because there's a nice separation there.
So what about scarring?
Yeah.
What do you guys do for scars? Because that's something I'm just starting to get into.
Yeah. Look into rigid collodium.
Okay.
That is actually really, really good.
Can you spell that for us?
RIGIDCOLLODIUM.
RIGID.
Okay, so why would I want to look into that?
QXP. What?
What does that do?
It's.
So it's basically
it.
You
It's
can
magic.
take and you draw the line that you want, and as it dries, it tightens.
Oh, so it shrinks.
And so it pulls your skin in.
Okay.
It's actually really
I've seen
cool.
that. Yeah,
And
I
you
saw
can
that
do
with
like several layers, and it looks real. It's really cool.
You can also use like liquid latex.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I was gonna start.
Yeah,
I tried
you just-
liquid latex.
is
I
so
started
helpful.
like 3 hours before trying to do the scar on the side of Zod. I gave up. It would not dry.
If you make it like
Ugh.
not on your skin, but if you put it on something else and then peel it off and just adhere it with something like Prozade
I'll
or like
do that
some
next
sort
time.
of like adhesive that's safe for
See,
your
that's
for
the
your
smarter
skin.
idea compared to what I usually do. But what I like to do is if you buy like really cheap toilet paper,
Yeah, you can.
you
roll it
don't
in there.
want anything with like a print on it. But if you buy like 1-ply really cheap
I
toilet
mean, no
paper,
quilted northern.
no quilted northern,
Oh.
unless you want that spiral flower pattern on the side of
If
your
you're in
head.
school, just copy schools on it.
You mean with the,
stuff.
the
Yeah,
cheap,
that
cheap
type of
school stuff?
I mean, I'm not condoning stealing, but businesses have the best toilet paper for stuff.
I'm sorry, it's for cosplay.
Or cosplay.
But
It's
you
like
can
no one
take-
wanted to use sandpaper anyways.
Exactly. You can take and do the you just put like a thin layer of latex on there, then put that on there and do another layer over it. And if you do 5 or 6
Blend it.
layers of that, then you can actually take with scissors and very carefully viewer discretion. Do at your own risk, all those little things. You can very carefully cut the line in it and separate it a little bit by putting a little bit more on the inside. Makes it stick out a little bit. You got a nice scar going. I mean, it doesn't look the same as the
You put anything over that when you're done to make it like pink, like
Paint.
scar and
whatever color you want. Yeah. I mean, again, I'd go with the oil
Just-
base for stuff like that.
So oil-based paint's not like acrylic. Does acrylic flake off of latex?
You
I
can
never
do
painted
it.
latex
Well, it
before.
all depends on where it's at.
Mhm.
Like we were saying with
Or
the
mix it in,
difference
mix it
between the primer and the glue. If it's going to be moving a lot, you're going to want something that's going to move with you. So acrylic, spray paint, stuff like that are not going to be as effective as actual body makeup. But body makeup tends to come off, so you got to balance it. It's two evils against each other.
And depending on what you use, like if you're using a paint or an adhesive or a prosthetic, make sure that you test it on your skin first.
Yes.
Yeah, make sure
Because
you're
you
not
might
allergic to
have some sort of a reaction and might
Yes.
not, work with your skin very well. It just could be very, very ugly. It'll get really bad.
Noah actually had a problem with that. Is we found out he was allergic to liquid latex.
Oh, awesome.
By gluing a bald cap to his head with liquid latex and going to con all day long with it.
Oh,
So
good.
Oh, yeah,
for
he
him,
had blisters.
he
It
was
Yeah.
so mad, and
Always
rightfully
test
so.
it out first, even with just like regular makeup, because even
Yeah.
sometimes you might have a reaction to something like that too. So if you even
Definitely.
have like a palette, just test it. I don't know, on a sensitive part of your skin, just to see how it reacts.
Not too sensitive.
Not too sensitive.
One thing I think that we don't really talk about to change gears a little bit is contacts.
Oh yeah,
I've been wearing contacts since high school, like 1993.
and that is a
So
good.
I know my contacts. You go to a doctor and you get yourself fitted for contacts.
And if you need a prescription contact, get a prescription
Yeah.
contact so you can see.
Oh, I'm blind as a bat. I mean, I can't.
Yeah,
I can only see
I'm
about
in-
to
I'm in
here.
the
and then
same
it's
boat.
blurry. Yeah. So I mean, once you get your contacts, I mean, well, obviously, don't cheap out on your contacts. It's just like buying a car. You get what you pay for, or a cheap old computer. You buy a $500 computer, that's what you get. You buy a $2,000 computer, that thing's going to last. And so make sure you get contacts with a high oxygen lens. That way your eyes can breathe, because otherwise you'll get all red and it looks like you're doing drugs or something, and your eyes are all itchy and nasty and it hurts. Go
Especially
for a quality lens.
something like that where it like focuses on your safety, like your skin and your eyeballs. Anything that you put in or on your body has to be something that's safe for your body.
Yeah, you can get a skin graft. You can't get new eyeballs.
No.
And that's a really good point, because I mean, there's countless cases of people putting in contacts and they're now blind in that eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about two different
definitely
colored
happened.
contacts?
That's not the color.
To finish that note,
Okay.
with a contact, when you put it in, if it hurts, like I'm not used to contacts, I literally
Take
have
them
to
out.
pry my eye open as somebody else shoves that thing in. So to me, a contact hurts right off the bat. After about 20 minutes, if it's still hurting,
Take it out.
your vision is so much better than that color of eye being on that specific character for a
And
day.
you don't want to buy
So
it
get
from a
rid of
place
it.
who doesn't require a prescription. So if you go into a
Exactly.
store and because it's like a law now, isn't it? Like
It depends.
it's
I think it's from
it
state to
depends
state.
on where it is. But if you go to a shop and it's like, legal to provide them with that information and like a doctor's note or whatever it is that they need, don't buy it from someone who's clearly not, caring about the health and the safety of your eyeball.
I mean, you can go to like a dock in a box, like a warehouse store.
Yeah.
And those are generally less expensive eye exams than if you go to a full-blown optometrist or ophthalmologist. I'll give you one really good tip for, especially for you, someone having to hold you down and poke you in the eye. What you do is when you're in the mirror, you focus on yourself in the mirror when you put it in. Because this way, when you're like, I'm looking at the camera right now, when you're doing that, I don't really see my finger coming towards my eye. If I'm doing this, it freaks me out. And then I go, and you blink,
Yeah.
So you pull your eye back, you look at yourself, and then you just kind of tip it in. It helps if you also fill the contact up with fluid.
Yeah, that's what I always do.
And then you tip it in. When you tip it in, you kind of wash the inside and it tears up, and then you kind of blink a little bit and you wash the outside of it.
Yeah, I mean, so it doesn't hurt.
It's
as
a
much when
science.
it's first on.
There's
I'm like
absolutely-
terrified of putting it in my
Contacts every
eyeball.
day.
This is what you learn.
Yeah.
This is what you do. So
Like I don't even like look in the mirror. I'm just like.
Yeah, to be honest,
it
I
freaks
have
me out. I
never
gotta
put a
look in the mirror.
contact in my eye.
I have never had
Ever.
I've never put it in. I've always had somebody
Yeah,
else because
it's
I
like-
want it. I need that contact.
you need
I
to have
want
yellow
it.
eyes. You know.
Yeah. Well, the first time I did Piccolo, I bought white contacts for Piccolo because he's just got a black pupil.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, this will be the finishing touch. Never practiced with it. I was like, I should be able
It's
to do this.
contacts. No sweat.
I
that
spent
reminds
2
me.
hours trying to put it in, and I was like, I can't do
You're, like,
this. And
shaking.
I'm so mad because I just want it in my face, but my eyes hurt.
That reminded me of a very important thing that is completely unrelated to that,
Okay.
and that is doing cost tests. Like, do not let going to a convention or a photo shoot be the first time ever that you are throwing everything together and testing out
This-
makeup.
This
It
is
will
important.
likely turn out bad. I mean, you might get lucky and it might just be, oh, but chances are something will not be right, and it's better to figure that out before you're at the convention.
Right.
This is true.
Oh.
Try
Okay.
it on as you build it.
What about
That too.
as far as basic makeup goes? Do you guys use like tutorials to try to get it really accurate to the character, or you do what works for your own face?
I can't do shading
I-
and stuff like that. So it's basically like, this is it. I do a layer and I'm like, I'm not going to do better
He's
than
like,
this.
take it or leave it. This is my face.
Like, what do I do about my high cheekbones, Ian?
Oh, well, that
that's
gets
easy.
into my area, though. That gets into the prosthetics. And once you start giving me prosthetics, like, I don't know if you guys saw Scott walking around in Two-Face, but that was my prosthetic work on his head.
Look at you go.
So- And that went against the whole try it before you do it. It was the first time we did it. And I was like, yeah, that looks really good.
Sometimes you get lucky.
But you can take and build up and create a cast for like a bigger cheekbone if you need it, and then cast it in latex, that type of stuff.
Or you can use makeup to, like contour.
Yeah.
YouTube tutorials are really helpful, or just watching someone else do it can be really helpful too.
Mhm.
Make friends.
Yeah,
Go to
make friends.
conventions and
Definitely
make
make
friends.
It's like I feel like in every one of these we're gonna end it with use your resources and do
Yes.
your research, because that's pretty much what it all
Yeah.
boils down to in the end.
I'm gonna have to
And-
have you guys help me with the head cast.
Oh
It's
yeah,
a
we can do
play.
that.
I have
And-
5 in my room.
Buddy,
filled.
Buddy, old pal.
So I just use
has
other
to
people's
play.
heads.
But yeah, and that's really a
OPH?
good
Yeah.
point. Somebody's gonna know how to do something better than you.
Yeah.
Right.
More than likely, what you're the best at, somebody else out there is better than you
Exactly.
at it. So the best part of the cosplay community is we all help each other.
Mhm.
I've never asked a question that out there they were like, figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
Like they're always like, oh
Yeah,
yeah,
a lot
use
of
this,
people,
this,
like-
this, and they send you like 17 links, and you're
Yeah.
like, too much.
Like some people, will keep their secrets that makes them like unique, but for the
Yeah.
most part, a lot of people will be like, "Here, let me help you," because we all want each other to have a good time and we all want to do our best work. And like even still, you can help someone else and be like, "Yeah, I taught him how to do that.
Exactly.
Like
Knowledge-
I helped
I
him
did
do that."
Well,
Knowledge wants to be free.
I
Sure.
want to make it to
Yes.
where if we're in the same cosplay contest, I know you have just as good of a chance of beating me as
Right.
I do of beating you.
Friendly competition.
Friendly competition.
And it's entirely okay to get things commissioned and buy things from people. If you can't do wigs, find someone who can do wigs. If you can't do
Mhm.
body paint, find someone who can. I don't do half my own body paint. I usually just pay a makeup artist because I am terrible at it. So
All right. So as
That's
far
what
as like details and stuff goes, we're gonna wrap it up here. If there's any last little things that you want to
I think we
blurt out really fast
Take
before
your
we
time. Try it on as you go.
It's always
Right.
going to be uncomfortable, but
For
cosplay. We're all picking up on that one. So next week we're going to do weapons and prop safety for conventions and just overall safety of handling your props. So all of this detail work that we've seen, we'll see a lot of them next time, and you might see some of the same people. So as always, tune in next week for the next Cosplay for All podcast, and we will see you next time.